This Impact Wrestling review was brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Try it, and the next time James Storm's revolutionaries want to prove their dominance, they'll do it by beating someone a little tougher than Sharkboy. Well, TNA finally got around to announcing the Bound for Glory card, and to say that I was underwhelmed would be putting it nicely. It was around that time that it finally hit me for realsies that this year, Bound for Glory is just not important. Frankly, what happens on Impact is not important. The only thing that matters to this company right now is securing a new TV deal. Everything else, not a priority. So you'll have to excuse me if I can't muster up much genuine excitement for Impact at the moment, because I feel like no matter what happens on this show, ultimately it's not going to mean very much, because until they sign a new TV deal with one network or another, the company as a whole is just treading water. Case in point, our opening segment. Austin Aries talks about who he might cash in his title shot against. This brings out Samoa Joe, who's like, hey, why not me? Aries likes this idea, and I do too. You know, a lot of us assume that everyone would just go for the world title automatically, but Aries choosing the X Division title shows that the secondary championship is no less important, that it has as much value as the world title in a way. That's how this came across, and it was great. I wish we had more stuff like this. Stuff like this makes the X Division feel like it really means something, because its title means something to guys like Aries and Joe. Having said that, they have a match. It's a fine match. Joe wins, and that's it, really. When Aries won the Gold Rush tournament and earned a title shot, I was hoping that something more would come out of it, that it would lead to some kind of larger storyline, but instead, they go through this big song and dance, build a whole show around a tournament for Aries to win and earn a title shot, just so you can do away with it in a one-off match to open the show a week later, making the tournament itself feel pretty inconsequential. I hate to say it because this was a great match, but if that's all this was about, then the whole thing seemed kind of pointless.
Oh, you were not aware of this?
Now here's a good storyline, EC3 and Rockstar Spud. EC3 is turning on Spud, blaming him for Dixie going through a table. Spud isn't happy about this. He's getting a little upset with EC3. People are starting to rally behind him, but they haven't pulled the trigger just yet. I like that they brought Eric Young out there to try to appeal to Spud's inner babyface. He was in a similar angle once himself years ago, so that made sense. That was a nice nod to continuity. EC3 beats EY in a match when Spud helps him out, so Spud's not ready to turn quite yet. But they're setting this up well and keeping him sympathetic enough so that when he finally does, people will pop for it. I still hate the fact that the writers are breaking up the best damn comedic duo this show had by a country mile, but the story is being well told so far, and they're both playing their parts great, so we should get something good out of it at least.
Shut up and follow me.
It was at this point that I looked at the clock and saw that it was 9:45. Yeah, 45 minutes into the show, and they'd covered 2 segments. That should give you some idea of the lengths they're going to pad these shows out right now. Not shockingly, despite the quality of the wrestling, things begin to feel like they're dragging. This segment with the Wolves, 3D, and the Hardys was great because it accomplished the one thing that has been missing from this tag team title series. It created some honest-to-God tension. Until now, the matches have been tremendous, but there's only so much heat you can generate with 3 babyface teams who all respect each other. Finally, they gave us a reason to want to see these guys really beat the shit out of each other. The Wolves are cutting a promo, 3D and the Hardys come out, and they heel it up just enough to make the Wolves look like underdogs, showing that they might respect the Wolves, but they want the tag titles badly enough to act like dicks about it. So now we finally have someone to cheer and someone to boo. Now Davey and Eddie really have something to prove. Now there's a reason to rally behind them, which means there's a reason to care. And you know what? That's all this feud needed, really. Good stuff.
Yes!
Manic 2.0 beat Sharkboy, who apparently still exists, though it looks like he's been hitting the chum bucket a little too hard, thus proving that Manic can beat a guy who never wins matches. Okay, I'm pretty sure we already knew that. This seemed a little unnecessary and kind of felt like filler to me. I've always had a soft spot for Sharkboy, but this was too competitive. Manic should have won a lot more easily, in my opinion.
Thank you for your irrelevant opinion.
They do Anderson versus MVP to tie in with the Chris Melendez angle. I have no complaints about the match, but my thoughts on this Chris Melendez thing remain the same. He's new, he's green as grass. Despite that, they've got him in the mix with upper-tier stars, and I just don't think he should be in this spot. I have nothing against him, but I feel like TNA are trying to force me to like him because of what he did outside of wrestling and disregarding his performance now that he's in wrestling. And I'm sorry, but that's just not how it works. I find it manipulative, and I'm just not on board with it.
And that's the fishing line, 'cause Sharkboy said so.
If this Rude Lashley confrontation accomplished one thing, it was illustrating just how little thought is being put into these shows right now. Rude's promo here was not bad, but it was the most generic paint-by-numbers promo in the freaking world. A promo that any wrestling fan could write in their sleep. I'm the longest reigning champion. You're the most dominant champion. I had you beat until I tweaked my knee. Give me just one more match. Where did this guy's personality disappear to? This didn't sound like Bobby Roode. This sounded like generic wrestler X. It was a promo that you could literally give to any random-ass ham and egger babyface in the entire industry, which means that the creative team probably spent maybe 60 seconds writing it, if that. Rude Lashley is your should-be Bound for Glory main event match. Ideally, I'd like to see a little more thought and creativity put into hyping it than this.
Oh, my brother, testify!
Now, one thing that made me very happy this week was the angle with the knockouts. This whole thing with Gail and Havoc was pretty much best-case scenario. They have a brawl, Havoc fucks Gail's shit up, Gail still wants to do the title match. They have the match. Gail struggles mightily, but she just can't overcome Havoc's raw power. She gets crushed. We have a new Knockouts champion. And this was exactly what I wanted to happen. I talked about this before. You couldn't have booked this any better. It's not even really a match. It's just a big decimation with Havoc picking Gail apart piece by piece. And Gail gets in some hope spots, but ultimately she looks like she just never had a chance. And this was perfect. It was everything the match needed to be and should be. Now you've got Gail in a position she's never been in before, you can tell a story with her that you've never told before, and you've established Havoc as a juggernaut with a story of, if she can dominate Gail Kim like that, who we've promoted as God's gift to women's wrestling for years, who the hell can possibly stop Havoc now? And isn't that so much more interesting than just pushing the beautiful people again? Well done on this one, TNA. Well done.
Yes! 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 Yes!
You know, there were a few bright spots here, but there's an awful lot of padding on this show right now. Storylines are minimal, and with Bound for Glory not a priority, they have nothing to build to, which means that creatively there's no forward momentum at all. Right now, I feel like the product is just going to stagnate until they sign a new TV deal. So for their sake, I hope that happens soon. Over. Out.